having something, a system that is telling you what to be doing, where you're not spending half of your time figuring out what should I be doing, who should I be following up with. I think that has been a huge game changer for us. I feel like going into 2025, we're going to have a place to be able to succeed that's not dependent on us figuring that out.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to Real Estateable, your go-to podcast for raw, real, and relevant information in the real estate world. Today, we are talking about some of our 2024 struggles. We're going to break that down into 5 topics, which I feel like was too easy because
there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, we've been on the struggle bus for 2024. And so we're kind of talking about those 5 things and how we can not bring those into 2025.
Yeah, reflecting on 2024, I think, is going to only make 2025 better. I think we have dove into these deep dive in other episodes, but really today we want to kind of summarize all of 2024, give you some tangible tactics to bring into the new year and really have yourself set up for success in 2025.
All right, give it a listen. All right, so number 1 on the list has got to be the NAR settlement.
Shaka, shaka. Have we not beaten this one with literally to death over and over again? But I mean, it's still changing. It's still in every conversation. I was just in an open house this weekend, which I had a really great open house. But the conversations and the confusion that came through the door, it was like, who have you talked to?
Yeah.
Like, not agents from my office, I can tell you that much. But the confusion that's still kind of around that and what we have learned so far, and really, the evolving situation for 2025, I think this is going to be the topic for a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of kind of like Chinese telephone. Oh, my friend is buying right now, and I heard this from them.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just creates a complex situation when hearing information from other sources. I think that, like we always talk about kind of working with our sphere, working with our people. So our people kind of get to know us. But when you have a cold lead or maybe someone who've reached out to you on your website or sign call, how do you warm up to those people and have those conversations?
Yeah. And how do you undo the conversations? Because there is so much still misinformation among agents, really, with the client and the consumer base. So much still misinformation in different ways to practice this. And how do you loop that back around to look like the professional, get someone that is in a cold type of relationship with you? How do you warm them up to know, like, and trust you? That definitely is a challenge. And I think we have a couple strategies that will help you kind of clear the air and make that a successful navigation for 2025. I don't know, so many different ways because it depends is the answer, right?
Yeah, literally. You can say that for anything.
Yeah. I think it all boils back to making sure that you are shoulder to shoulder with the broker that you are partnered with the company training, with the local association, with your state, the forms, all of that stuff, education, and really knowing your stuff in the way that you're practicing with the company that you're aligned with. That right there is just step 1. Like, what is the strategy is to have a clue on what's going on and how you should be performing.
Yeah. There's so many resources out there. I know we're kind of specifically talking about NAR, which they obviously have a website. So you can check that out. They're always putting out information so you can stay informed. Another strategy would be go back to the classroom, get some CE. We're blessed enough to have most of our classes here in Tennessee at our association are free. Like all of them.
Yeah.
Almost all of them, we'll say. But getting that education, staying on top of what's going on, talking to other agents. It's okay to be friends with agents outside of your company, outside of your market, outside of your state to get more information, right? We're all should be collaborating versus competing with each other.
Yeah. And I don't think it has, like what Ashlee was talking about, is not specifically about setting pricing. It's not specifically
Mhm.
about a percentage, it's about best practices. So when you're collaborating with people, we always say you want to be in a room with people that you want to grow and be like. And so that's really, really what we're encouraging you guys to do. So, best practices is not a number. It's, really creating a full transparency plan for you to be handling buyers and sellers in this way that we should be doing business. And I always catch myself because I want to be like, oh, the new way.
Mhm.
But it ain't the new way. It's not the new way. But I do think that things that are surrounding this, you should be creating new ways to outline this stuff. New ways, like
Mhm.
even if you had a way to do it before, how can you do it better?
Yeah.
Um, how can you be more transparent? How can you pair the resources that NAR or your local association or your company is doing to perfect, and protect what you're doing in our industry? And so, even if I haven't changed anything. Well, you really, Sally, you really do need to get with the
Yeah.
time, and you really do need to look at those, the way that you're communicating your value, in perfecting that system.
Well, I also think, well, creating some marketing around that. So,
Hmm.
if you're constantly answering the same question, or you want this settlement kind of outlined, create something in Canva that could be textable, email, something you can explain on social media. There's other ways that you can reach people to explain the situation to help stop spreading the misinformation.
Yeah, 100%. And I always go back, my broker hat says, and you always get all of that approved by your managing broker.
Yes. Yes.
All of that stuff, just I don't know. We were talking, I was in a group message with a couple of our company agents this morning, and it was very lighthearted conversation. And here comes me, the Karen. You need to go to our broker right now. Like it was definitely something super lighthearted. And it was funny because the whole conversation went a different direction. I was like, just to safeguard yourself, go
Yeah.
sit down and have a conversation with our broker. But it was funny to see, the banter back and forth about it was a comical situation, but immediately I was like, you need to make sure you're being productive. People are crazier than they ever have been.
Mhm.
And I think that in everything that you're doing, that transparency, showing your value, all of those things being outlined very clearly, and you being able to have the skill set to communicate that to the consumer. So all those pretty things don't
Yeah.
matter if you can't back them up by your skill set in the way that you're communicating and explaining those things to the consumer.
That's a really good point. Don't be afraid to role play with literally anyone,
Mhm.
because the more that they don't know about the situation, the more questions that they can
Yep.
ask. And I think that that is a better way to kind of approach it and prepare yourself for those conversations. Maybe after you have a couple conversations, practice with someone who is in real estate, right? So that they can critique you as well. But I think the communicating and knowing what you're talking about is imperative.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I think all of those are really great tips. We've talked, high level in other episodes on this. I'm sure you're getting all kinds of different consumer information from the agent consumer side of things. You're seeing so many different things, but stay rooted in the company you're partnered with, your broker, your local association, because so much of that is nationwide. And I know that there's still differences between states and how we're practicing. But I think that can apply to everyone. Know your stuff, have something to back that,
Yeah.
and really be super transparent in this. Be ready for those hard conversations so you're not caught off guard. More conversations in 18 years of me doing business in the last 6 months that I'm like, it's actually kind of cool that,
Yeah.
okay, let's have, a more in-depth conversation. Cause to me, that's where we shine as agents who know our stuff. It's like, that's not a challenge I'm going to back away from. That's like, okay, cool. Let's have a conversation that normally the consumer really didn't have, anything besides high level, what you were providing to them.
Mm-hmm.
So exciting.
All right. Number 2, interest rates, economic factors.
We're going to just, by the end of this, you guys are just going to guess number 4 and 5 because it's going to be so predictable
Yeah.
of what our 2024 has looked like. But yes, who is tired of
Oh my
interest rate?
gosh.
Honestly,
Everyone.
I was driving here and I was talking with my seller because I had an extremely motivated ready to go buyer for a listing of mine, and they qualify. They actually over qualify for this property, but interest rates and payment amounts, guess what?
Yeah.
Half the budget.
Well, that's literally what's dictating home searches right now. I think
100%.
more than ever. I mean, before people could shop at the top of their pre-approval and money might be tight, but you could make it. Now it's like at the top of your pre-approval, no, you're not going to eat that
You're
month.
like, why is the bank saying we can afford this?
Yeah.
Type of scenario. I will say though, out of all the uncertainty with interest rates and just this market, I am so glad to have the election behind me.
Yes.
There is still a little bit of lingering conversation with that, but I do believe that the uncertainty and the economic factors that were just so hinged on that, beginning of November timeline, to just be past that, to just know, regardless of whether you're on one side or the other, to just know I am super, super thankful to be past that. That was
Okay.
a lot with the election and everything else this year.
I was gonna say,
You're asking too much.
Asking for a friend. What do you do when the election didn't change the status of your client's needs? It didn't change overnight.
Ashlee, speaking from experience, she's like,
I said for a friend.
For a friend. You're my friend. So what do you do when they're still sitting on that seat of the election, still going to change, and it's still not changing? I don't know. It is so hard because in our election episode, we actually talked about people, and people are crazy. And so it's like how do you pull them off of that? I don't know that you can. Honestly, if they are still sitting in this well over a month later, if they're still sitting on that, I don't know, you've got yourself a good one.
Yeah. Well, I think for my strategy for just like the uncertainty, for sellers, providing CMAs, providing a sheet that has exactly what I've done for the week. How many showings did they have? How many online views? How many saves on Zillow? That kind of information can go a long way for your sellers. Because after you put the sign in the yard and say you're not getting showings, well, maybe Zillow's your only hope there. Hey, you have 40 saves on Zillow. Your house is doing something. It might not turn into something just yet, but people are starting to see it. So I think that's kind of a way that you can kind of overcome that. That way they know you're doing something.
Yeah. Ashlee always reverts back to the data.
The data
and the facts.
It's not me. I'm not the problem. It's the data.
It's the data that is going to tell you that you're wrong. No, but I mean, it's true. I think that I go more to the personal kind of manipulation of the emotions, or the hesitations, the kickback that I get. But you automatically default to is not about how you feel.
Yeah. I'm not a feelings person though.
No, 100%. 100%. I'm going to dive in to tell you why what you feel is wrong. She immediately goes to the data part of it. Probably we all need to be more like Ashlee, where it's like, you're fine to feel how you want, but here's the reality of what this looks like for sure.
Yeah. But I also think too, providing options. So maybe their loan type is restricting them for some reason. Maybe you get a seller financing, or maybe somebody's, selling and buying at the same time, and maybe they should consider a bridge loan, or, just be creative, be that resource to overcome those economic challenges.
Well, and we have a couple of lenders right now have kind of switched up their approach to kind of like a whole portfolio big picture basis. And we were sitting, myself and one of our junior agents were sitting on a call with a lender and her client recently. And when he basically was telling them that, no, you're not moving. Like there is not, you can, but there is not an equation that makes sense to give up where you're at for whatever benefit of where you're going. So an example would be you keeping and renting, or selling the house that you're in. You would qualify for the same price that you would be selling this house for a payment that's almost double, to go buy the same house that you're selling, because now that's the new price point. Yeah. And so a couple of things that he talked about, again, they qualify for higher, but it's the payment that's basing all of this conversation.
Are you looking for ways to become more efficient and save time in your day as a real estate agent? We've got the thing for you. We have created 18 done-for-you email templates that cover the entire process on the buying side and the selling side. The best part is that this is only $49 and includes customizable email templates for the process to get you through start to finish with your buyers and sellers. Head over to realestateable.com/email templates, and that's where you can find them.
So let's say the current payment on that house that they would sell is $1,000, but they would go buy the same price that they're selling for a $2,000 mortgage. He had talked to them about, okay, got it. Not what you want to hear. You obviously want to increase a budget by, let's say, $100,000. When he was talking through that, he's like, we could talk about a 3-2-1 buy down, a 2-1 buy down, a 1-1 buy down, a this, that, like, here's the strategy, all which didn't make sense in any direction, but like getting the yes for them to understand economically that was not the right choice. So making sure that you're partnering with lenders that are thinking outside of the box, to not just be like, hey guys, it's not a good choice, but explain like, it's not a good choice, but here's my solution, which is also not a good choice. But let's look through and see, do you have choice? Is there a choice for you to do the bridge loans, to do the different things that might make sense or not make sense?
Yeah. Would you say that's based on the data?
No, it'd be based on the
Their data.
The interest rates, the problem number 2 that we're talking about, that I'm like, at what point are we going to get past that? This is just the reality we're sitting in. It's kind of like the back in my day conversation, or like, oh, my parents got this interest rate. It's like, none of that matters, guys. Like, where you're sitting is the reality that you have to have housing. And this is the window that you're in.
I always hate when buyers are like, well, they bought it for $200,000 2 years ago. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. That was 2 years ago. Look at the data. It's wrong.
The last 12 houses in the subdivision sold for $500. They're not going to just, oh, they bought for $200. Let's sell for $250. Get real. It's not. Yeah.
Should I do another drum roll? Number 3, increased demand for transparency. So we talked a lot about the NAR settlement and the interest rates, but I think that now more than ever, just being as transparent as possible, leaving no stone unturned, because we keep saying people are crazy. And you don't want to like not tell someone something and then them come after you. I don't know.
Well, I think it's a whole balance between not taking your client on a roller coaster of the start to finish.
True.
But them in society and just in general having a demand for more openness and transparency. So I think that there is a fine line that you're going to have to figure out where, I didn't have to tell them that the inspector, got to the property and it was a 4-hour fiasco of getting the water turned back on because they confirmed the water was on prior to arrival and blah, blah. Like, what does that matter in the big picture? Or you come to your client when you already have a solution. Hey, inspector is slow to finish up, to wrap up with you. A lot of our out-of-town buyers are not present for home inspections, but expect a wrap-up call. So once you have that solution that the water is on and he's just starting late, giving them that information versus the front side of like the fiasco that you have to work through for those couple of hours. So I think that there's a way to do it to be more open, transparent, where before, honestly, a lot of the stuff that I'm like, you don't even know what we go through to get you to the closing table. Having a little bit more transparency in that, I think there's just a demand for that now.
So you're kind of saying like, be transparent through a frosted glass. Sometimes we were talking about being transparent. You're like, I lie to my clients. It's not the water's fault.
No, I tell them the truth after the solution is already there. So I don't lie on that. I'm like, I'm just like, they're expecting it to be done and we're just getting started.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I also think too, it doesn't always have to be, like, not in regards to the NAR settlement. Just be transparent throughout the whole entire process. So from start to finish, you want to make sure that you're keeping them up to date, whether that's weekly updates, daily updates, hourly updates, whatever you need to do. Just be transparent in what you're doing, because I think that, agents only open doors for people, only put a sign in the yard. That's what people think about us. So let's do a better job. Be transparent. Tell them what you're doing.
One of our best practices that and you touched on it several times, high level though, we do have a report that is going out to our sellers on a weekly. Mine's like a 7 to 10 day basis. I've not yet gotten to the discipline of every Monday, every Friday, whatever, but there's a lot of agents that it's like Tuesday check-in, and your buyers or sellers or your your prospects know that Tuesday's the day that they're going to get a follow up from you, just from experience over time. And I do think that, especially the roller coaster thing that I was talking about before, if you lump in the 7 days of everything that you've done into one, it's not reactive and it's not, pushing them at the wrong time. If you're giving them it kind of as a summary of the last 7 days of here's everything that's happened, unless it's high emergency items, it can be lumped into a weekly update. Buyers, sellers, prospects, etc. Really, you could take your notes that you're compiling throughout the week and then give them that in a one check-in, 1 15-minute check-in once a week. How are you doing on getting more rotational on that? Because that's something fourth quarter wise we started implementing specifically for sellers, but just in general, getting ahead of them and then them knowing there's a placeholder that they can expect to be followed up in.
So we kind of just rolled this out. So I haven't actually done we have a Canva sheet that we're using and changing out. I haven't actually done the Canva one yet. I have sent like the activity link from our MLS. We'll tell them how many showings they have, but it doesn't include the Zillow stuff, right? Does it?
It does include Zillow, realtor.com, and Realtrax.
Okay.
Or MLS.
Yeah. So it's missing a little bit of data. So we created a prettier one with more data. I need to scrub through and see what data I'm going to actually use, because there was a lot of like digging for like social media accounts and things like that. So I don't know how much I'm going to do on that, but TBD. I think it's valuable. My clients who I have sent the link to really appreciated just seeing
that.
Yes, because it's a little reassuring. Like, hey, people are at least seeing my house online if it's not showing in person.
Yeah. And I don't even think it has to be prettied up or, I mean, it literally could be a phone call. Some of the lenders we worked with over the years, they have literally just done, I'm doing a Tuesday check-in. And it's like, you literally can tell they're looking at your client's file, going through, the ringer of that. So if you're taking notes, like you should be on everything that's happening and that you're doing should be documented in writing. And if that's happening, really just pull up the file, whether it's a paper file, a digital file, and go through the last 7 days. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to complicate that, but I do think best practices moving into 2025 for strategy conversation, I'd say start doing that. That's going to really take away a lot of that demand that consumers are expecting, and rightfully so, I feel.
Yeah. All right, number 4.
Can you guess it?
No. Demand for more affordable housing.
Yes, I can guess that. Hello. Payment-driven conversations, high interest rates, yes.
Yeah, we did kind of touch on this. I think it's just a tough time to be a buyer right now. Like, if we're being honest, I mean, even just thinking like if my family were to move right now, like, I don't even know what we would buy.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, our payment is great. Like, we have a low interest rate. We're one of those people, I'm not stuck in my house by any means. We have a pool now. Like, it's great. I'm not trying to leave. But I'm like, those people who are in the low interest rates and holding on to their house because of their payment, it's like so hard to move up. Like, you can't just move up anymore, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be for you guys that are in areas that do not have rotation that is consistently happening. Like, we have a lot of movement and transition happening around the Nashville area. We have a lot of industries coming into our local area. We have the military, obvious rotations all the time. So we kind of have people forced to move. Those are our favorite sellers.
Yes.
Favorite sellers that have to make the move. And whether that is to help them rent or to sell. But that is more difficult when you're like, no, everyone grows up here and stays here and then dies here. That is way harder of a situation because you're not upsizing, downsizing. You are literally surviving in those kind of markets. So I think that it depends on where you're at as far as, the affordable housing thing. But I will say for us, and we'll talk specific for our area, there's way more demand under 300,000 than there has been before. You could definitely see 3s and 4s were having great movement over the last couple of years, low interest rates. Now, under 300, still showing like hotcakes. We've had a couple multiple offer scenarios. So lower priced houses, definitely something to be focusing on. But we also have townhouses, condos,
well, the crazy thing,
different things like that.
You say the lower priced houses are, whatever, but it's like when you actually look at the house and then you look at the price, is it really lower priced?
Well, I think that, those people that were in the 500 400 price point, now their payments are putting them down into that.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, they're getting way less of a house for
Mm-hmm.
the money, but housing is a need. And when we have people moving in and out of this area, those $400,000 and $500,000 buyers are now in those, the low threes, the high twos, and that's just now where the demand for affordable housing is sitting. We're seeing more and more condos and townhouses in, more condensed type of housing come up and sell.
Mm-hmm.
The demand for that is there. And I just think it's because the affordability has just shifted to the left, like quite a bit for so many different consumers in America.
I would think, just start by researching different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Figure out what neighborhoods, have a lot of turnover. If seeing the prices and the appreciation, checking to see, just like drive through the neighborhood. Is it trashy? Is it well kept? Just kind of figuring those things out so that way you can have your buyer make a good decision.
Well, and I think too, if you're getting ahead of like specific needs for buyers, like one of your strategies going into 2025 is just to be a local expert. So cool. You want to have like, what are the hot spots that have great availability, good inventory, good proximity to local, this, that, or the other thing, and start to learn your market in a price point that maybe was kind of overlooked in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And so get familiar with, if someone's coming in, you can be like, oh, that's totally for us. Liberty Park, Magnolia Place, Tiny Town, Tylertown. It's different areas of our local market that you're like, I should know about this when someone's coming in and they're expecting, the higher price point, but they really need to have a local guide that's giving them options in a more tangible place. So I think your strategy moving into 2025, we're not going to change interest rates. We're not going to change budget and what people are willing and able to spend, but you absolutely can change your knowledge about your local market in finding out that data so that you're ready to go as that local expert.
Okay. Number 5.
Oh boy.
Using technology.
Oh boy.
Yes.
I'm done here. This is Ashlee's going to take us to the finish line.
Well, okay. So technology obviously helps us do our job, right? I always think back like for the Kenny Jeans in the office.
We love Kenny Jean.
Yeah, she's like in her 80s.
I don't know.
Or 80s. She's older.
She's a rock star though.
Yes. But I can't imagine, like, even I think about this sometimes when I'm driving where I'm like, okay, there used to be MLS books at the office. Then
no cell phones.
How the heck do you get there?
Yeah.
You have to use a map. What street am I turning on? Oh my God. Like, I think about that stuff and I'm like,
would you survived? Yeah. That's why I say Kenny Jean is a rock star. She has gone from all of that stuff, like having to pick up keys from offices because there's no lock boxes.
Yeah.
No, count me out.
That's what I'm saying. So
count me out.
I would say pick a few different things that maybe you want to try. Maybe it's something you heard us talk about. Maybe it's BombBomb. You want to start doing videos, or maybe it's diving into your CRM. Whatever it is, go all in.
Yeah.
So don't just buy it and then never use it, or have your company provide it. Say it's your CRM, because we did this for years. We put all our people in a CRM. We set them up on a newsletter and like some holiday drips, and we
forget it.
And we called it good. Now we have a fully functioning CRM, and we're like, oh my gosh,
it's telling us what to do now.
It's telling us what to do, and
yeah.
It's just taking the time to figure it out and use it. That is like the top tip I can give for any technology. If you're confused, all technology has some sort of like chat box or phone number you can call. I think leveraging your tools for social media, for email marketing, for like, everybody's digital now,
Yeah. Well, I think that even like trying to figure this out without having some type of guidance, and I say figure out real estate.
Yeah.
So what should you be doing when things are not clicking and your conversion rate is like the lowest you've seen in the last 5 years? Because that is every person listening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Our conversion does not look the same. And that's okay, because we still can be successful. There's still room to be winning, but you have to do 10 times as much to get the 10th of the results that you were getting by, doing a third of the work before. And so when you're looking at that, having something, a system that is telling you what to be doing, where you're not spending half of your time figuring out what should I be doing? Who should I be following up with? I think that has been a huge game changer for us. I feel like going into 2025, we're going to have a place to be able to succeed that's not dependent on us figuring that out.
Yeah.
Period. But I will say, So things that helped us become like, this was a fourth quarter, a target for us as a team, a no more excuses, get it together. So some of the things I feel like I'm sure you can add to this that have helped keep us as a team on track is accountability,
Mm-hmm.
goals for that accountability, and having a system that we felt like we could actually understand and use, and then also having a success plan with the company we're partnering with. So one of the awesome things about our CRM is we have essentially a CRM coach,
Mm-hmm.
someone we can plug into a person, which, if you're guessing, that chat box ain't ever going to do nothing for
Yeah.
Tiffany's business, but a person that I can be like, call Ethan.
Yeah.
Call Ethan. We'd actually want Ethan to come on to talk
Yes,
on the
we'll have him
podcast.
sometime.
Yes,
For
to
sure.
the level of knowledge that he's been able to
Mhm.
pour in and be like, okay, what's next? What should we be doing next? And knowing where we should be finding placeholders to actually be moving the needle on that. And so I think that if we could preach on anything for technology, that CRM, we've talked spreadsheets year after year on this podcast, but I feel like the CRM telling you what to do, key strategy for success in 2025.
Yeah.
One of our best takeaways. What else do you think was finally like, this is it?
Well, I think
Get it together.
we hired another person.
Okay.
So we have a little bit more support. And that, which also it increased other people's time to then hold us accountable and
Yep.
help us stay on track with whatever our goals were. So like,
Yep.
and not only, and automating it. So like some of the things like Sabrina does for us or whatever. And it's just like, hey, this is an idea I have, but I don't know how I can execute it. Okay, let's work together and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked about that though so much. Like
Mhm.
this Q4 has really been like, what's that great idea? Let's put it to action. What's the
Yeah.
great idea? Let's have a plan. What's the great idea? What's the 10 steps to implement that? I think we have the time to be able to do that now. And I really feel like that goes back to the transparency, the value, the strategies for showing your value. All of this stuff really intertwines. And honestly, the struggles of 2024 really are going to be the best thing that's dividing the good and the bad in our industry, like the talented and the lazy in our industry. And so really I'm super excited about what's coming out of 24, because we really have had to come out of it with no excuses. Like there's no more excuses of anything that we could say to not actually put in the work for the results.
Yeah, I agree. So we talked about a lot of things. We were supposed to talk about 5. I feel like we broke them down pretty well. So what would be either your top takeaway or like, what is your top thing that you're going to do in 2025?
Yeah, I think that we spoke about a ton about like our strategies moving into 2025. I think continuing to work in our CRMs for sure, but also there's so many good ideas that need to come to fruition for us. And so really just taking those kind of setbacks that we had in 2024, the things that we had to figure out and create transparency and create things around everything to do with the higher interest rates, the NAR settlement, all of those things we couldn't control. Okay, got it. We've created the plan around that. But we still need to be able to take those great ideas that we just been putting off for the years of busyness. And so for me, going into 2025 is a couple more of those. What's that great thing that I learned 2 years at a convention that I haven't been able to implement? What is the 2 or 3 things that I can be perfecting on the buyer side, because the seller side is looking amazing.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I think that going in for 2025 strategy for me is continue to really expand on the CRM, let that do the work for us. And then what else is it that we need to be diving into and getting better at and starting to implement? How about you?
So mine's definitely the CRM for one. And then I'm going to say for number 2, education.
Yeah.
Because I just passed my broker class. I still need to test out, but I'm going to need like 1 million hours of education. So I'm just already putting it out into the universe that I'm going to pass, and that I'm going to need a bunch of education after that.
See, and I'm on the flip side of that. I have T minus 30 days to get about T minus 70 hours.
Oh my
So
gosh.
nothing like cutting that short, but I'm on the flip side of that. And I do think that there's so many things that you can be choosing from, and education for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly.
All right, if you found this helpful, make sure you give it a 5-star review, share it with a coworker, and we will see you next time on Real Estate.